You keep it quiet, we say it loud. The things you hide, we're calling out. Double lies and blurred lines, love that cuts, truth that bites. Sex, secrets, and a little sass. Nothing stays buried when you drop the mask. We're the Gen Sexers, no shame, no filter. Just the truth, but hotter.
Oh, hello. Welcome to another episode of Sex, Secrets, and Sass. I'm Angie.
And I'm Chrissy, and we are the Gen Sexers. Yay! So today on our podcast, we have Dr. Lori Nabors, she, her, and she is a psychologist who works with sober, curious professional women. She's based in Illinois, and she also practices in 40 plus states.
Thank you for
Lori.
having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yay, yay. So tell us a little bit more about what sober curiosity is.
It's kind of exactly like that. It is something that is, I think, gaining a lot of momentum and people are putting more words to it, but it is kind of exactly like it sounds. You are curious about this idea of sobriety. And it may not be full no alcohol, sober, but just the idea of what it would be like with less. Questioning, experimenting with your relationship with alcohol, cutting back and seeing what that is. It could be because maybe alcohol no longer aligns for you in your life and what's going on. So, for a lot of women who are maybe still having kids or promoting at work or getting married or buying houses or entering perimenopause or menopause, reevaluating how alcohol maps onto those events in your life and kind of wondering, do I really want it to be there anymore? And just experimenting and getting curious about how it's maybe affecting you in different ways and just kind of seeing what it is to have less or even none at all.
Right. Yeah, I had the pleasure of watching a replay of your recent webinar called Poor Decisions, P-O-U-R, so clever. And I found it really, really fascinating, really chock full of great information and statistics. And it made me think about like what micro experiments, I like that term, that I want to try surrounding alcohol because I love wine. I love cocktails. I just do.
Yeah.
And so when I thought about what micro experiments I wanted to do, I thought I would try like not drinking during the week. I mean, I've done that before. I've done that before where
Yeah.
I'll just dry during the week and drink on the weekends. Or maybe taking time, like 20 minutes, I think you mentioned in the webinar, when you have that urge or that desire to drink, taking 20 minutes to do something else and then see if the urge is still there. Well, you got in my head, Lori, because last night I went out to dinner, a double date with my husband and a friend and her husband, and I had planned to have a cocktail at dinner. And then I was like, do I really want that? And then I waited for the waitress to come back and we were talking and probably 15 minutes had gone by. And I thought, oh, no, I don't want it anymore. So you got in my head and I did not have alcohol on a Saturday night.
I don't know if I should say you're welcome or apologize.
I mean, it saved me money.
So you're welcome, I guess. Yeah, it's just
saved
kind
me
of
money and I don't have
evaluating
a
and
hangover today.
noticing. Yeah, and noticing like what it is that you want and what are some of the reasons that maybe lead to drinking. And yeah, on average, a craving or a desire lasts about 15 minutes. That's like the typical. It can range like a little less to a little more, and the intensity certainly can vary for people depending on, what's going on. But on average, it's about 15 minutes. And sometimes after that time, like you're saying, you don't even
It just
want
wasn't there anymore. And
The
I
moment
was
has
almost
passed.
disappointed. I was almost disappointed, but well,
What
that
are
was
some
great.
of those statistics? Is it okay to share those today? I know you had it in a webinar. Chrissy said that you shared some statistics in your webinar.
Yeah,
I did. I don't know off I don't know off the top of my head which statistics we're asking
one
about.
thing that I remember was the amount of alcohol that is recommended by, I forget what organization, NAAIC, is that the acronym?
It's the National Association for Alcohol
Consumption?
I want to say.
Yeah,
So,
something like that.
so for women, It's recommended no more than one standard drink a day, no more than
Womp
7 in a
womp.
week, and no more than 3 in any one sitting before we start teetering into we're above recommended limits. And there could be, I won't go on a soapbox, there could be a lot of discussion around how there's a lot of people that are disappointed that there's any amount that is recommended as a standard. Like there's a lot of people that say it should be
Mhm.
0 because what we know about alcohol and its effects on just the body and people in general. But alcohol does affect women differently, pound for pound. If a woman of the same size and a man of generally the same size, like height, weight, are drinking the same amount over the same time, the woman is going to be more intoxicated because of how alcohol is processed in the body and where it is processed. It's mostly housed in like water, and women have just less water in the body than men.
Wow. So a man, my same
Mhm.
weight, height, everything. Because I always looked at it as, well, it makes sense that women's is going to be less than men's because
They're
generally,
bigger. Mhm.
they've got more muscle mass or whatever. But someone
Even the same
saying,
size.
wow, had
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems unfair. It seems
It is
unfair.
it is maybe unfair at best, but it's not actually like the patriarchy at this time. Though research, like I said I think in my presentation, research for a long time was mostly focused on men, and then of course it's like let's just apply it to women.
Shocker. Mhm. Shocker.
And we're looking more and hormones also play a role, but yeah, even for men and women of the same like weight and size, it just affects women differently. One other fact that is also kind of, I don't know, take of it what you will. Women are more likely to veer into problematic and substance use disorder quicker than men, even with a shorter period of time and history of drinking, just because of how alcohol works in our bodies. So if you're like, it's only been a year, it's been like 2 years, it can't be that bad, it can't be a problem. We just want to remember that women are more likely to veer into, yeah, more problematic substance use faster than men.
Okay. Whether they're considered I know people have to identify themselves as an alcoholic, but is that more of before it turns into alcoholism or more like, maybe explain to our listeners the difference between alcohol use disorder and being an alcoholic. Are they the same? Is it?
So I want to be very clear. Some people will identify as and use that label like an alcoholic. That is a term, though, that can be very loaded for a lot of people and holds a lot of stigma and shame. And so it
Mhm.
is not one that I use. If someone comes to me using that word, I do a lot of work around like, what does that mean? Where did that come from? How do we feel when we use that? Right. There's mirroring and language that people use when they come to us. But I also want to understand that because there is a lot of shame attached to things like that. So, alcohol use disorder is just the current medical term for what used to be known as alcohol dependence. And there's different severity levels, mild, moderate, and severe. And that just depends on how much alcohol is impacting you in your life. So,
Okay.
in areas related to finances, relationships, your work, legal issues, risk taking behaviors, things like that are tolerance. So, are we having more tolerance? Or do we have
Mhm.
withdrawal symptoms when we stop drinking, physically or mentally, even? It comes down to things related to like control, cravings, and I'm drawing a blank on the third C right now. Because you put me on the spot. I wasn't anticipating this.
Sorry.
That's all right.
You're good.
It's all right. My brain's a little mushy. I can't remember the third C, but it's like those three domains are the ones that
Mhm.
we kind of look at when you get into like a diagnosable substance use disorder. To be sober curious, you don't have to be there. I work a lot
Mhm.
with women who are in more of a gray area drinking. So these are women who are very high functioning. They're kicking ass at work. They're kicking ass in life. And from the outside looking in, people wouldn't look at them and be like, oh, there's a problem or we're concerned about it. But internally, there's more of a like, do I have a problem? Do I not? I don't really know what's happening. I think about it a lot. It's taking up a lot of brain space. I, set a rule for myself. Like I'm only going to have one when I go out, but maybe that one turns into three. Or there's a lot of
Yeah.
shame spirals. It's something where you notice you're thinking about a drink to relax or a treat when you get home from work a lot more often, especially after a hard day. Like
Mhm.
kind of waiting for the weekend because you're like, I can't wait till I go out. it's starting to take hold in a way that's a little bit different. You're probably a little more likely to be over some of those recommended guidelines, but it's not necessarily something that would be like a
Like a crisis.
diagnosable
Mhm.
substance use disorder. There's no crisis, there's no rock bottom, there's no dramatic crash out, and it's still absolutely okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
that's
would
that
say that I
area's
identify with that. Yeah.
And that's absolutely the area that most women and most people that drink fall. Like, most people live in
Mhm.
that area. I
Mhm.
think just because of how it's portrayed in society, what's portrayed in movies and TV, it's either you have
Mhm.
a big problem and you're, like, waking
Yeah.
up and needing the hair of the dog, so to speak. Like, you're having to have that beer, you can't get through the day, whatever it is, and you're, like, losing your house, you're losing your, like, relationships, you're, like, having to go to the hospital, like, rehab, or you
Mhm.
don't. And that's not where most
Mhm.
people's reality is when it comes to their relationship with alcohol. And then to be sober curious is just to reevaluate and question it. No rock bottom required.
Yeah.
That's kind of a relief, to
Mhm.
think I can just explore this without having to go cold turkey. No, I'm not gonna drink anymore.
Right. Like it's an all or nothing proposal. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much more
Yeah.
sense.
I'm just gonna say, I think for me, I'm definitely in that kind of gray area, and I'll go through phases, right? I'll go through phases where I don't crave alcohol, I don't crave a drink, and
Yeah.
I won't drink for a while. Like I did dry January
Yeah.
once this year, but once I did it. I think it was last year I did that. Or I'll do like a dry week, or I
Yep.
won't drink during the weekdays, and then have some drinks on the weekends. And then other times I'll find myself in a period of time where I have a glass of wine or two, like every day.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this, I don't want to say coping mechanism, but I guess coping mechanism of just
Mm.
relaxation at the end of the day, or just a habit, right? It's not, I'm not
Yeah.
even thinking about
Yep.
what I'm doing. It just becomes this habit. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I
Mhm.
think there's so many relationships with alcohol that people have.
Yeah. And it's not always that
Yeah.
very extreme, rock bottom that we think of. And what you're
Right.
describing, a lot of people with gray area drinking or who identify in that way will go periods without drinking, like dry January, Lent, sober
Mhm.
October. They might go, for a
Mhm.
while and they not think much about it. It's not necessarily hard or not as hard as they thought it might be. And there's some parts that could be difficult, right? And then they
Right.
might slowly start to go back to some of those other behaviors because alcohol serving a different purpose for them in some ways, like the transition from work
Mhm.
to home, a way to relax, to, take their mind off. Sometimes, like you said, people just like the taste. They like how it feels, right? Like it's a
Mhm.
complicated thing.
Mhm.
And when we get curious about what it's doing, it opens up more exploration for you to figure out what you want, and it shuts down that shame and that stigma that is so associated with alcohol, especially for women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you go into more detail, especially for women? What do you find that, the reasons for saying that? Is it, their relationships, their secrets? Like, when you said especially for women, I'm like, ooh, tell
Mm.
me more.
This is something where research has found that for women in particular, there's a lot more stigma and shame around alcohol and seeking treatment for alcohol. And so that when women actually seek treatment for alcohol, it tends to be where there's a lot higher acuity related to like co-occurring financial, relationship, medical, mental health, and like alcohol issues. Like it's a lot higher acuity by the time they actually enter treatment because there is just to be found like shame and secrets and just stigma around the issue. So they're not asking for the help where they could be asking for it sooner and
Yeah.
not getting to that point, right? And so when we progress to something that is a diagnosable substance use disorder faster than men, but we're not asking for the help that we need sooner, it just creates this
Wow.
storm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us how you help your clients navigate this. Let's say I've come to you and I'm 20 years younger than I am.
We're not Gen Xers, we're millennials, or what would 20
You're a
years
Gen
younger be? I
Xer
don't
and
know.
see me. I really
Yeah,
appreciate my
yeah,
elder Gen Xer generational siblings.
But I mean, I'll just use myself as an example. In my 30s, I was a stay-at-home mom. There were lots of, my friends and neighbors. We found ourselves in the afternoons spending time outside in someone's backyard with, our mommy's juice cups. And the kids would be playing and we'd be enjoying our own little happy hour at 3:00 in the afternoon. And, to start thinking, maybe this isn't such a good thing, because not only would I do that, but then I'd go to make dinner and I'd have another glass of wine, and then make dinner. And then at dinner, we'd sit down and I'd have another glass of wine. And I can see how that, it did progress for me, but that's why I don't drink anymore. But, I come to you and I'm like, I'm really worried. I think I'm drinking too much. I just snapped at my husband last night, and that's not me.
Yeah. So it's not across the board, right? Like, because every person is different. So we talk a lot and we get a lot of history of like, what has the relationship looked like in the past? Like but also what does it look like now? So fostering the curiosity as opposed to the shame, like, let's just get some data. So a lot of the first step is, what does it actually look like? Because people are not the best, because we're human, at actually knowing what we're drinking. So we get a lot of estimates of like, I think it's this many days a week and probably this many drinks. And what, let's get some actual numbers. Like, let's actually track it. Let's actually see what it is. Let's actually maybe measure our drinks if we can. So if we're drinking at home, let's do that. Often, though, there's a psychoeducation piece, because not everyone knows what a standard drink is. And so we'll talk about what that actually is. Wine is the biggest one that people don't know what a standard drink of wine is.
Oh, yeah. My wine glass is half a bottle of wine.
Yeah. So it's 5 ounces. 5 ounces is a standard glass,
Lord.
a standard drink of
5
wine.
ounces?
Which
That's not even a cup.
one bottle of wine has about 5 standard drinks in it.
5?
Right? Yeah, has about 5.
I would say 3.
I know. No, it has about 5. Has
Oh,
about
good
5.
Lord.
I know.
Oh, that's
That's
bad.
the one that's the most mind-blowing usually for people, is the wine.
Well, yeah. My friend or my husband and I could finish a bottle, the two of us. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I could finish a bottle, the one of me. I mean, it's not that hard, folks.
Yeah,
It's not
and that's where we just get curious. We don't want to shame ourselves. We just want to get the numbers, right? But we don't know what the numbers mean if we don't know what the standard drinks are. And so, like, I also ask a lot of, they can be kind of annoying, but it's just information, like questions, like, are we doing a 2-second pour? Are we drinking in the same glass? Are we putting like ice in it? Like, are we doing to a line? Are we measuring it? Like, a lot of questions, because people don't, we don't know it. Sometimes it looks different. And then if we're going out and we're drinking there and we're getting like a mixed drink or we're getting a cocktail, like, those are never one standard drink, right? Because it's usually multiple types of liquor.
Like a double.
It's like, it's depending what it is.
Yeah.
And if you're drinking craft beer is not like, one craft beer is not one standard drink, because the percent alcohol is so high. It's definitely a lot more.
Wow.
So bring it back before I continue down more rabbit holes. It's getting curious and seeing what do the numbers actually look like. And then we kind of like look at those numbers and see what are the reactions to that. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's actually not what I thought it was. It's like less. Sometimes it's more. And we kind of see what is that. And then we see, what do we want to do with that? And that's where Chrissy mentioned micro experiments. Maybe we try some micro experiments. Maybe it's something where we see, how is it to not drink during the weekdays if we're already maybe not drinking much during the weekdays? Or maybe we want to drink one less drink on days we are drinking and see how that is. Maybe we want to substitute a non-alcoholic drink during the week when we get home, but we're still going to use the fancy glass, because why
I love
not?
that.
Maybe we're going to try to not drink at all for a whole week and just kind of see how we feel. Maybe we're going to track, as we're tracking our drinks, just getting that data. We're also going to track how much we're spending and see what that is. There's a lot of different
one.
there's a lot of options, but it's entirely up to the person in front of me to see what it is they want to do, because it's all about their choice. And then from there, we kind of see, what is it that we want, because not everyone wants to be sober and not drink at all. Some people want to cut back. Some people want to drink just a lot less. And so there's just work around that to be done. And just when we can be curious about it, and I know I've said curious like 100 times and I'll say it 100
Mhm.
more,
It's a great
we
word.
can drop the shame, because when we're feeling shame and secrecy around it, it shuts
Mhm.
down curiosity. It makes us go,
Right.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to touch it. Whereas if we're curious, we're able to go, huh, what do I do with this data now? What do I want to do
Yeah.
with it?
Right. It makes me think of also the difference between shame and
Hmm.
shaming, right?
Hmm.
The idea that we have an internal parts that are maybe shaming ourselves. We feel shame
Hmm.
around something versus an external force shaming us for drinking.
Yeah.
Someone saying, "Are you sure you want that drink?"
Yeah.
Or "No, don't drink too much tonight." Like those things can be really
Ugh,
shaming.
yeah.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
I've experienced that in my life.
Yeah.
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 And those
Um,
are things that come up for sure. And when we're talking too about people that are like sober curious, or even in drinking in the shades of gray, you don't always see it from the outside looking in. So if someone says
mhm.
something like that, it may be more likely like, oh, you're not drinking tonight. Because people feel the need to comment on women all the time, especially about their
Yes.
drinking. Like, oh,
Yes.
you're not drinking tonight. Like, and when someone's
Mhm.
trying to actively experiment or cut back, like that can hit hard, especially for a group of people that are maybe more people pleasing, are more likely to
Yes.
like do
Mhm.
things like this,
Or wanting
right?
to fit in and
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because for a lot
Yep.
of people, I mean, for society, the idea of like being sober is synonymous with boring. And I don't know when that happened. Like, because we're not restricting things, we're
Right?
experimenting with what's going to match us in our life in this phase. And ultimately,
Mhm.
that's up to you to pick. It does tend to see
Right.
all the
Yeah.
ways that alcohols maybe become like load bearing, so to speak, because it is so ingrained and tangled often with like burnout and other mental health things, that it's not just like taking it away, because it has become so integral to like that loop, which is what that talk was on, Chrissy, that you talked about that I gave. So it's like we
Yeah.
don't have anything to replace it with yet. So it makes it really hard sometimes. And that's just
Mhm.
data that we can get when we're trying these things and we're seeing like, huh, that was surprisingly hard for me. And what do I want to do with that? I don't want to shame myself because it was hard. I just want to notice
yeah.
that was
What did I
difficult.
learn from it and
Hmm.
what do I
Yeah.
wanna do with that
Yeah.
information?
Yeah.
It can
I
also
ca
bring up, oh, sorry, go ahead, Chrissy.
No, go ahead. No, Dr. Lori, take it away.
I was going to say it can also bring up, as we start doing these experiments, trauma, different trauma and
Mm.
experiences that we've had, because sometimes it has become a habit or a way that we cope with things that we would rather not think about. Sometimes by
Mhm.
over time, slowly, not anything dramatic. And when we start to cut back or slow down on those things, other stuff starts to come up, right?
Makes so much sense. Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
I was just kinda gonna pivot a little
Yes.
bit about alcohol use and sex,
Mhm.
right? And the relationship between the 2. Um, I say that because I think of a time in my life when I was in a relationship, now with my husband, a relationship earlier, that I felt the need to drink prior to having sex to get me in the mood because I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily sexually attracted to this person.
Yes.
And so that I found that alcohol loosened me up or got me quote unquote horny in
Mhm.
order to have sex.
Oh, yeah. There's a very clear relationship, and it's fairly nuanced, between alcohol and sex. And I think as women in particular, it's something to be just mindful of and knowing for yourself how it affects you. Because like you're saying, like alcohol really blurs the line between attraction and maybe
Uh-huh.
availability. So like genuine
Mhm.
desire, what do I genuinely want? And if I was sober, would that still be the case? Or no? Like,
Yeah, in
would
that
I
case, no. In my case, I'm thinking back to that relationship so many years ago, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I was
Yeah.
sober, would I still want to sleep with this person or do those things with this person? If the answer is no, is that really attraction? Is that really desire?
Right.
Right?
Or is that beer
Um,
goggles talking?
right.
Right. Beer goggles, I love that term. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that starts to
And then the
come
irony
to
is, yeah,
mhm, the ir-
than having the sex, I couldn't orgasm. right? Because alcohol affected my ability to orgasm. So,
Yeah. It also
Mhm.
tends to then bring, like, next day, you might have more of a shame hangover than even an actual hangover because you're waking up
Mm,
and you're
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
what was that decision? What did I do?" Right? It brings
right.
up a lot of attachment related things that we wouldn't necessarily call it that, but, like, it's tapping into our need to be chosen and, loved and connected with someone, which is a human thing, right? We all wanna be connected and feel seen and loved. Yet alcohol doesn't necessarily help that genuine connection. There is a very big difference between choosing to have sex or choosing to do something and just kind of sliding into it or acquiescing to it and doing a thing that maybe we don't really want to do or wouldn't want to do if alcohol was not involved.
Mhm,
Right. So it's like
Mhm.
saying yes versus meaning yes.
How often do you see that in your practice?
I have certainly worked with a number of women who've experienced sexual trauma. So, for one, alcohol has
mhm,
been involved in a lot of those experiences, and that let me be very clear that
Mm.
in no way makes it their fault. It is a common factor, though, in the majority of sexual assaults. And when you start to talk to women who've experienced just different things or just their sex life in general, you start to hear things, you as a therapist are maybe more attuned to hearing these things where they're saying things like, yeah, I didn't necessarily really want to, like I did this or I, made this decision or, and
mhm,
you're hearing this and it's like this wasn't necessarily a place of empowerment. It was something where maybe the
mhm.
alcohol was more making that decision. You weren't necessarily thinking through a choice that you wanted to actually make. The alcohol was kind of
Yeah.
taking that for you.
Yeah. And like you said, if something happened, it's not regardless of how much she drank, it's
Yeah.
still not her fault.
Never, never. Yeah.
Right. Sexual
Ever.
assault is sexual assault, whether someone is sober or drunk
Right. And
Yes.
even
or
and
tipsy.
yes, and we're talking about women who are saying yes after they've been drinking and then
Right.
waking
Yes.
up the next
Right.
day and being like, "What was that choice that I made?" You're
Right.
in that moment, maybe you're like, "Yes, I want this, but maybe I didn't really want it, but my brain didn't have the ability to really think through things the way it
Gotcha.
could if
Yeah.
alcohol
Mhm.
wasn't involved," right?
Right.
So you hear women kind of it's more like this regret that's coming up and like, "What were these choices that I made and why did I do that?" And that wears on you
Mm.
too, differently.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm even hearing
Mhm.
what could possibly turn into a cycle. You wake up, you feel shame for what you did, and like, why did I do that?
Need
Okay,
have another drink.
have another drink to cure my woes and feelings of shame, so I don't feel that anymore. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
or you're trying to convince yourself that's what you actually want or you actually enjoy that, which
Right.
fuels secret shame, I think, in a lot of ways, like or it can, right? We can be
Mhm.
just because we're kicking ass at our jobs and our careers doesn't necessarily mean that we're immune to doing these very human things.
Absolutely. We're all good at showing what we want to show to the
Yep.
world, and then
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
behind closed doors.
A lot. I mean, several instances come immediately to mind when I think about decisions I've made or behaviors I've engaged in because I've had too much to drink.
Yeah. I can think of many, most of the time in my college years, but even after that, I can think of times where I'm like, why did you do that? Like, what were you thinking? And I wasn't really thinking.
Mhm.
Alcohol takes that away, right? And especially when you
Right.
add it to like a non fully formed brain, like of a
Oh,
early
good lord,
adult,
yeah.
right?
You just don't realize it sneaks up on you. But I think having the knowledge, I had no idea that even same size, I mean, that's, as you can tell, because I brought it up again, it still resonated with me as, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we process alcohol so differently
Yeah.
than we do.
Yeah. And if I can stress one thing, it's really trying to open that curiosity as opposed to going with the shame spiral or the self-blame, even when we're maybe behaving in ways that aren't in line with our values and noticing this is a thing that I did as opposed to this is the person I
Ew.
am, right?
Yeah.
It's trying to
Absolutely.
find ways to access yourself and your values as opposed to saying, well, I did this thing, so I'm a terrible person and I'm no good, right? That's going to feed shame immediately, as opposed to, I did this thing and I did this behavior, and that gives me some information to be like, why am I doing that? What is it about this situation in this context that led me to make this decision? Right?
Thank
Maybe
you
it
for
has
that
nothing to do
distinction.
yeah, maybe it has nothing to do with you as a
Mm,
person and has
Yep.
everything to do with the context of the situation at
circumstances.
hand.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for that distinction. I hope that resonates, with people.
Yeah.
So basically, just be curious rather
Yeah.
than ashamed, be curious. Hmm.
Yeah, as much as you can. So, if you're out and you're drinking, you're at a bar, you're at an event, whatever it is, like, maybe even run an experiment in your head ahead of time, like, "Would I go home with this person if I wasn't drinking? Would I do that thing?" If the answer is n if the answer is no, that's data. That's not a reason to shame yourself. That's
Mhm.
just like, "Nope,
Mhm.
wouldn't do that." Like, see if you can tap into that. Now, it's very hard with the more alcohol you've been having, right?
Mhm.
Because,
Mhm.
again, if this thing wouldn't exist if you're sober, is it really the same thing? Just ask yourself
Right.
that. Like, if the
Right.
attraction disappears when you're sober, is it really attraction? If the decision to do that thing is gone when you're sober, is it really a meaningful yes, right?
Right. Right.
Those are very nuanced things, and there may be important things for you to think about when you're in those situations.
Mhm. Yeah. A term just popped into my head as you were saying that.
Mhm.
This idea, this phrase of liquid courage.
Yes.
That is that is so, I guess, common in our culture,
Yeah.
and I don't know what I want to say about that, but that just popped into my head how that's almost normalized that, "Oh, I'm gonna have this. I need some liquid courage to ask this person out or to go up to this
Yes.
person or to do this thing or to,
Yeah.
speak in public or to whatever it is, right? If I just do a
Yeah.
shot now, it'll calm my nerves and I can do this thing, whatever that is."
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we don't live in a vacuum, right? Like, you can
Right.
all probably think about the marketing for alcohol. It's
Mhm.
like, I mean, I keep seeing them on our ads, like, "I'm gonna win this race and I gotta go and I'm gonna get the Ultra. I'm gonna get the Michelob Ultra. That's gonna be the prize for winning the race." And, like, the
Right.
most curious man in the world is still, like, drinking whatever he's drinking. I don't even know. But, like,
Right.
it's all just so ingrained
Yeah.
in the culture,
In the
right? So,
culture,
like,
yep.
you can do this. And I'm sure we can also think of times where it's like, I feel a little unsure, unsteady of how someone's going to receive me. And rather than maybe relying on something else or leaning into some of that fear, I'm going to drink some alcohol. And maybe I can use that as an excuse for why I did what I did.
Mhm.
It's an out in case it goes badly. And also, maybe that's also caused some friction in relationships in particular, because
Yeah.
now I'm saying things I didn't necessarily mean or in a way I didn't mean them,
Mhm.
or I'm only bringing up things that have been bothering me when I've been drinking, and, like, maybe that's not the time to air our grievances, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mhm.
And it is that idea of this liquid courage, right? That has been ingrained in the culture, like, that's not
Yeah.
Mhm.
imagined. That is something that we hear about and we see and is definitely reinforced in our environment.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lori, for coming onto our podcast and
Yeah.
talking about this.
This is
You're
very
welcome.
informational.
Mhm.
It's
I
great.
hope it was helpful. Yeah, so just get curious. Alcohol is turning down our intuition, it's turning down that volume on it, and find ways to listen to it. We're not saying, none of me is saying just don't drink, right? That's
Mhm.
not what we're saying. We're saying get
Mhm.
Yeah.
curious about you and your
Curious about
situation
it.
to make empowered choices for you. Because how are you able to do that if we are just shaming ourselves?
Mm.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so tell our listeners again where they can find you should they want more information.
Yeah, so I have a website. It's drlaurinabors.com. You said you're going to link it, so I'll let it go there. That's the best way to reach me and find me. I've got a contact form. I've got my email. I've got my phone number there. I've got a consult form if you're so inclined. That's the best place to find me.
That's
Fantastic. Well,
great.
thank you for being a part of our episode today.
Thank you for
Oh.
having me.
And again, we are the Gen Sexers.
Hasta la
I'm
vista.
Chrissy. There's Angie.
Have lots
And
of sex.
have lots of sex.
Or
Yeah,
don't.
do
Or
that.
don't.
Or
You.
don't. Whatever you want. It's your choice.
Whatever you want to do.
That's right.
Bye. Bye, everyone.